I mean, at this point, there's really nothing for it, just to put them head to head and see how we do. So. What's up, y'all? We are talking alto whistles, specifically this A whistle from the folks at Lear, who sent this to me a week or two ago as a thank you for the video that I did on their D whistle, which is also lovely. Completely out of the blue, and it was very much appreciated, and it gave me a good excuse to bust out my other A whistle and do a little comparison. Plus, we're also going to compare with this one that I got from Labu a few weeks back, which they call a D whistle. We'll get into that. And in fact, let's start with a little bit of whistle key breakdown. If you're already familiar with how this works, feel free to skip ahead to this time code right there. Jump ahead, but for those who aren't entirely sure of how this all works, roll with me on this. The basic whistle that everybody gets is a D whistle. We call it a D whistle because that's the lowest note you can play on the instrument, all fingers down. That's the note D. You can play in the key of D. Nice and easy, which would make sense since we call it a D whistle. You can also play in the key of G by starting up here and changing your C sharp to a C natural, like so. Or in the key of G, we can also play in the key of A, starting right here and making a G sharp. So we get all of those keys plus all of those relative minors, E minor, B minor, A minor, a little bit of D minor you can make work. All of that is very accessible to the standard basic D whistle. So what does an A whistle do for you? Well, of course, it gives you the key of A. Again, so called because the lowest note, all fingers down, is an A. It gives you the key of D, starting in this position. And it does give you the key of E major, which is kind of cool and unusual. So just by switching whistles, we get exposed to a few other keys. So when you get right down to it, the only thing that you don't get on a D whistle that you would on an A whistle is the key of E major, which there are a few tunes in E. There's not a lot of them. That being said, getting access to A and D in a different fingering is really the reason you buy this. You buy it because it lowers the pitch of those keys, as opposed to the fairly shrill high whistle. So I've got 3 A whistles here that we're dealing with. From the cheapest available, this one, I'm not entirely sure how much this one from Labu costs. One, because I'm not sure how to convert the exchange rate there from where they're coming from. Plus, I couldn't find on the website how to get an actual whistle, an A whistle, the key that I'm looking for. But I can pretty much guarantee it's a heck of a lot cheaper. The Humphrey is going to run about 140, 150 bucks, depending on whether you're getting some of the different options that he's got. The Lear is 110 euro, but I've also got a 10% discount code, Whistle Tutor, if you're so inclined you want to use that. You know, these two are what I would call a reasonably priced professional instrument. So you've got some options as far as pricing goes, but really the $100 and $150 range is about what you're looking for a high quality whistle in this category, the alto range, the lower range. I want to play the same tune on all 3 whistles so you can hear a little bit of a difference between the two. The tune is called Timmy Clifford's. I'm playing it a little bit differently just to exercise the range a little bit, so here you go. All right, that's the Lear. Let's check the Humphrey. Right, and now the Labu. What do you think? What sounds the best to you? I think what we're going to get into in this video is that it's going to boil down to a lot of personal preference. It's going to be fairly hard to make objective decisions. This is better, this is worse. There's not really going to be a whole lot of that. It's just a matter of what works for you. I do want to compare tuning on all three of these. Both the Lear and the Humphrey are tunable. The Labu is not. So that's, to me, a pretty significant distinction. It may or may not be for you. All right, let's see what we got here. Now you can see I had to blow at least the F sharp, or the, what is that? C sharp. Got to translate from D. This note, I have to blow a little harder to get in tune. That's not really an issue with the whistle as much as it is with me learning how to play it. I'm just kind of used to the amount of pressure necessary to get my whistle in tune. So it's accurate. It's in tune. That's the gist. Now, volume-wise, one thing I noticed, it's remarkably similar, at least in the lower octave. I'm curious now on the higher notes. Volume-wise, they're very similar. The tone, to my ear anyway, on the Lear is a little bit more gritty, particularly in the top hand of the upper octave. Very uniform, I would say there. As you get up in that higher range, it starts to add in some of that more stereotypical generation grit. And that's, again, one of those things that's really a matter of personal preference. Some folks love that sound, some folks don't. To my ear, the Humphrey doesn't have that. It's smooth across the whole range. I happen to like that, other folks don't. Again, one of those that's neither better nor worse, just a differentiating characteristic between the two whistles. I've talked about this before, but weight and balance is a pretty big issue, at least for me. I would imagine it is for everybody. It boils down to, does this instrument feel comfortable in the hands? That's one of the reasons why I like the Humphrey whistles so much, is because you really don't need your thumbs for anything more than a bit of balance. You're not really gripping the instrument. So for example, I can play it without really having to use my thumbs other than one for balance. Don't really need this. If I tried that same trick with the Lear, I feel like it's constantly walking away from me because the balance is different. Again, not better or worse, just different. And that's one of those things that's a matter of preference and also a matter of simply getting used to it. Part of that is, again, the weight. This is a much heavier instrument. Now I say much, we're not talking about huge amounts of weight, but it is significant and it's definitely noticeable. And in fact, I even found this little scale when I was cleaning up my house. It's a little dirty, so apologies for that. Let's just do some straight up comparisons. Originally I assumed that these would be heavier because of the all metal head joint, or mostly metal head joint, relative to one that's mostly Delrin, I'm assuming that's what this is. But it's not. The bodies themselves are significantly different. Let's do a proper comparison here and you can see what I mean. For the Humphrey, we are looking at 2.80 ounces. Sorry, I'm American, we use ounces. 2.8 ounces versus 3.9, 1.1 ounces heavier, and that's just the body of the instrument. Compare the head joints. .6. So again, significant difference. Not a deal breaker, probably not even a decision maker, but it is something to keep in mind. The finger spacing is interesting on these too. If we compare, let's say if we're going to line up the top hole so that everything is even on the top, you can see how it stretches a little bit on the Lear as we get down. It's not much, maybe, what is that, 1/4 of an inch? The bottom hole is slightly lower. The only effect I would say that might have is if you happen to have smaller hands, that could affect you one of two ways. If you have smaller hands, it's going to be a little tougher to play fingertips. Not a world of difference, but a little bit. That being said, if you're playing more on the piper's grip and you like playing across the whistle, having that bigger stretch on the whistle itself is going to be a little bit more beneficial versus trying to jam your fingers in piper's grip on a smaller one. So again, something to keep in mind, but probably not a decision maker either way. It's It's nice. It's very responsive. It feels like I could rely on it. So I think if you do end up getting an instrument like this, you're going to be pretty happy. I wish I still had that Glenn Schultz that I did a video on. I think I'll post it up over here, wherever the thing goes. A long time ago, I posted a video on it, and then I gave it away, unfortunately, but hopefully somebody's playing it and enjoying it. But it would be fun to do a comparison with that as another professional A whistle. I think this is one of those things that's a luxury. You don't need it, but it can be fun, and it's enjoyable playing some tunes a little bit lower and just hearing how it sounds, because I think it kind of gives you a little bit of a new appreciation for a melody that maybe you've gotten fairly comfortable with and familiar with, and it might breathe a little bit of new life into it. So if you're interested in it, check it out. I got a discount code. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Lear. You guys are awesome. Can't believe you sent me this. Okay, cheers. See you guys.